Demographics play a huge part in a lot of people's or a lot of companies' kind of growth ambitions. Huge amount of talk about women in tech, and lots of data comes out saying, no, yeah, we've got many more. Is that accurate data? Are we seeing an upward trend? It's not accurate, is it? Because they're taking into account the people that work in HR, reception, recruitment,
Yeah,
operations,
right.
finance.
And it depends. Like, I guess the answer is a question. The question to the answer to my questions are normally more questions.
Yeah.
Generally, is it depends. It depends on how are you defining what a woman in tech is. How are you defining what inclusion actually means, and it is dependent on the space. And is that data accurate is also really hard, because I've come across people who have told me, when I tell them what I do, what space I work in, what data I'm trying to challenge, is when someone said to me, when I see that diversity and inclusion form, I kind of do a bit of stretch of the fingers and it's like, oh, who do I want to be today? And they'll just go through and answer it as anyone, because they don't necessarily agree with or
Sharing that
understand the purpose.
information. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just like, well, I'm just going to make it up because I don't, what does it matter? And I think that's the real difficulty. Integrity is the word. Maybe accuracy is important, but integrity is just as important, because you have this
Yeah.
data. How can you prove that it is truly reflective of that person?
And also a really key part when I'm speaking to particularly female developers or people in tech, um, a lot of them are actually really apprehensive at being potentially hired on the back of them needing to up their data and show some gender equality.
Mhm.
So what's ironic about that is that probably is in their favor, because potentially their CV is shuffled up the pecking order. Oh, we've got a woman that's got the tech stack, but actually it's counterintuitive, because the people already feel like, did I get that job because I got it, or did I get that job because they've huge jumped me? Which it has a knock-on effect, I think, for your self-confidence in a different kind of way. Would you agree with that? Is that something that you kind of see and hear when you're
Yeah,
talking to
with those
companies?
exercises, I think I use this word already, but it's like, how much is this a performative thing versus how much is this truly within your culture to have, within your workplace culture, to have a nice place and space for these people? So,
Yeah, I agree.
people who are new parent, is there a place where they can, if they're needing to express their milk, then they can. That's the thing that they can do. Also, from a kind of moving away from the gender or kind of expanding from that, when you've got neurodivergent people, if you're creating accessible interview processes, it's not just those people that you support. You actually end up supporting so many other people. Again, when you think about English as being a second language, or not the primary language anyway, is that creating clear wording, stuff that is open, maybe sharing questions in advance. Actually, that stuff helps way more than just your neurodivergent
Yeah, it
candidates as
definitely
well.
does. And actually, that would help people that are lacking in confidence, for example, to know what's coming
Right.
up, to be able to have a minute to, because some people don't naturally think on their feet. That's why some people excel in exams and some people don't, because, retention of information. And in a day-to-day job, mostly you have access to be able to do some prep. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, you don't walk into a meeting with no prep, do you? It's in any other scenario apart from in an interview, if you don't know what the questions are coming up. So,
Yeah.
how do people move into using data better? Is that just let's recalibrate what we're capturing, or is that also let's look at what we're capturing and decide what's relevant? Because changing processes that have, I think you hit the nail on the head earlier on. You said, or you intimated, well, some companies are doing it because other companies are doing it.
Mm.
And I definitely think that's true. I think it's become sort of a trendy thing. So, how do you personally, going into companies, influence that? And also, how can we as consumers influence that? Because, like you say, some people are just going, roll my sleeves up, muddle the data. But there's got to be a better way, hasn't there, to do that?
Yeah. So the most simple thing at any stage, for myself, for yourself as a consumer, for yourself as an employee, is to ask the question why. So, like, why are we using this data? Why do we need this data? Why do we understand this? How do we understand this? Why are we not understanding it? And why being a brilliant question, but why not also? So, like, why should we not collect this data? Because, like, how is that going to make a person feel? And that doesn't necessarily create action, but it starts to create some empathy, which then can be a good motivating force to say, actually, no, yes, this project is going to take a tiny bit of time, but the things that we'll be able to unlock from that is, great connections with our customers, also great connections with our employees that have a purpose. Also, we will understand our customers better to be able to sell to them and provide them the service that our whole organization exists for.
Yeah.
So in terms of actually coming in and then making some of those changes, having the why as the motivating factor for why should we make this change is, really important to start, to then start to think about, okay, well, why are we doing this action actually? Why are we sitting in this team meeting every week? Can we change that so that we've then uncovered an hour a week for ourselves to go away and do something else of more value? And the why question can really be taken in so many different places and
Yeah.
spaces to understand the purpose.